we're talking all about discovering your why. And some people use this in a form of for their business. And that's probably more common. And why I want to start with that is because not everybody has a business, but everybody can have a why. So sometimes people think like, hey, if I don't have a business, or if I'm not an entrepreneur, or if I'm not on that pursuit, then do I really need to find my why? And the reason is absolutely, because if you're somebody that's living with goals, somebody that's intentional in your life, say you want to be a better person at home, you want to be a better person with your family, you want to be a better friend, you want to give better in the community, a why will help you overcome the unforeseen challenges. Because we can do as best as we can to plan, but there's going to be unforeseen challenges. Raise your hand if you've ever had unforeseen challenges, right? Like everybody kind of has those. So no matter how much you plan, you're going to have unforeseen challenges. But a compelling why, maybe we'll start with this, a compelling why will help you overcome the greatest challenges. So the bigger the challenge, the greater the why. Which tells us right in the beginning, your why will grow. So when we find our why, it's not like you're done and that's it, finish, You want to always be in a sense of knowing, okay, if I'm growing, how is my why growing also? I'm just going to open up the participant so I can see if the waiting room pops up. So today we're going to kind of go, so what is your why? I want you to start thinking about that. Regardless of what your goal is, today's webinar is all about finding the reason why you pursue that goal. If you haven't taken intentional time doing this, chances are that you'll learn something today. Mainly because this part in the goal setting process is probably the most difficult part. The how is easy. The what is easy, but the why will challenge you. So as we get things started, put a 1 in the chat if you're up for a challenge. Let me know if you're up for a challenge, because finding your why will challenge you. Okay. We got people up for a challenge. Let's go ahead and let's rock and roll. So I like this because we got a driven group. Okay, so finding your why, having a vision for the future is powerful, but it's even more powerful when you know why you're doing what you're doing every day. Habits are important, but if you don't know why you're taking those habits, you will return to bad habits. So here is 5 questions that's reflective that I want you to write down really quickly that helps you start to kind of dig into finding your why. So the first thing is, what matters to me most? So at the end of the day, what matters to me most? Think about, sometimes you have those days that everything goes wrong, but there's something that was still good. And you're like, you know what, if that's still here, then we're good. That helps you identify like what matters to you most. Now, the second question is, what is the one thing that I keep coming back to? It's almost like a North Star or a central point that you find centered on. What is one thing you keep coming back to? Okay, now the number 3, third question, what would be lost if I gave up on this goal? So I'm going to recap really quickly. Number 1, what matters to me most? These are really good questions to help you. Even if you don't fill it all today, write them down, because when you take some time later today, it's good to kind of help jog our thinking and kind of hone in on the why. So number 1 was what matters to me most. Number 2, what is the one thing I keep coming back to? Thanks for putting it in the chat. Jamie has it in the chat too, if you want to take a look. And number 3, what would be lost if I gave up on this goal? It's a good question to ask, because sometimes when we're looking at a goal, we're pursuing to a goal. But sometimes finding your why is understanding that you're not willing to lose some things. There's some things that you're gonna lose if we don't achieve this goal, and identifying that helps us find. Number 4, who would be impacted? Who would be impacted if I gave up on this? Remember, we're trying to find why we want to achieve a goal. So sometimes identifying a person in our life, sometimes we'll naturally do things more for others than we'll do for ourselves. So asking a question, who would be impacted if I gave up on this? Here's the last question. What problem does this goal eliminate when you achieve it? So what problem does this goal eliminate when you achieve it? So let's take some time really quickly. Awesome. I want to encourage you to keep these questions close by, because it's even good to do in a reflective journal as you continue to do. Some of you are going to discover your why here right in this webinar. Some of you is going to take some time, but these questions help us kind of hone in. What matters to me most? Is it family? Is it success? Is it health? Is it your spiritual walk? What matters to you most at the end? What is one thing you keep coming back to? What is one thing that's just consistent in your life? What will be lost if you gave up on the goal? Sometimes you feel a little bit of that pain or loss, and it kind of motivates you to push through the hard times because you want to fight for something. You realize that if I give up, something is going to be lost. This is a really healthy thing to do, because what you're doing is you're putting yourself in that place before you get there. You want to experience that before you get there. That way you can make the decision before. Next one is, who would be impacted if I gave up on this? So think about an area of your life. Think about a goal you're pursuing. I think, who would be impacted if I gave up on this? Once again, it's interesting, like human nature, we're more naturally driven to do things for other people before we do things for ourselves. That's why self-care is so hard. That's why so many people suffer from depression and anxiety today, because to take time to take care of yourself is so unnatural. We're actually more motivated to go care for others. But the thing is, if we're not healthy, we're very limited on how we can care for others. And then if we are still broken in a sense, we actually continue to bleed on others. So it's good to want to help and serve others, but to do it in a sense of having no care for ourselves gets really dangerous. So we want to use the natural motivation of seeing who would be impacted if I gave up on this, but also understand to always keep that good balance of self-care. Now, the last one here is, what problem does this goal eliminate? This should help motivate you by seeing beforehand what problem this could eliminate. If I achieve this could eliminate some stuff. If I achieve this spiritual discipline, this could eliminate me feeling like I can't leave my family well. If I achieve this goal of my financial budget, this could eliminate some moments of stress that we keep experiencing. So when you see, what you're doing is you're seeing the goal as kind of a remedy to a consistent problem you face. So really powerful questions. Awesome. Let's go ahead and jump in moving forward. So seeing your reflection. Things move fast in today's world. So it moves so quick that sometimes we forget to take a moment to look at our goals and to evaluate where we are and where we're aiming to go. But never taking that moment could cause us to repeat actions and excuses. That's the big one. Actions and excuses that put us in this never ending cycle by making repeated mistakes. So we don't notice that until we cause a reflection on it. Like we've got to put a mirror on that. So working from your why helps every decision that you make with a purpose, because our days are filled with decisions. Waffles or pancakes, right? Smoothie or coffee, right? Like, what are we eating for lunch? Who we're calling? What time are we leaving? What am I going to watch on TV? What am I going to listen on the radio? What social media am I going on? How long am I going to be on there? It's a constant cycle of decisions. And the hardest thing is when you're faced between a good decision and a good decision. Give me a thumbs up if you know what I'm talking about. Right? The easiest things is to decide right and wrong. That's the easiest. The challenge is when it's right or right. This will be good, but so will this. What do I do? Sometimes that stress is really caused in indecision. When we're stuck and we don't know how to decide, what do I choose? This or this? Do I make this person happy and make this one mad? Or do I make this person happy and this one mad? And then sometimes we say, I'm gonna make everybody happy. And then we burn ourselves out. Right? So knowing your why helps us actually make decisions. Knowing that we're not choosing this person because we don't like this person. We're just because we're sticking to our why. Why we show up at work is different from other people. Why we serve in a volunteer team or it's different, right? So when we know why we do something, it actually helps us make decisions. Therefore, we don't get stuck in indecision and we don't need that unnecessary stress. Awesome. So now we're going to this, a purposeful endeavor. I think you guys are familiar with this that I kind of mentioned before, the SMART model. It's kind of like when you were small and they said, no think you smart, huh? Well, I took those days and I kind of seen that this model works best even when you're achieving goals. So it's my revision of the SMART model. And let me just go for that really quickly as a reminder, or if you never heard that before. So this is how a framework on how you set goals. You want it to be S. You want to have it to be specific. So in other words, if my goal was to have this pen, this one here, I could say my goal is to have a pen. Or I could say my goal is to have a blue pen. That's more specific. I could say my goal is to have a blue ballpoint pen. Or my goal is to have a blue ballpoint pen made from Energel. Like the more I focus on it, the chances of me getting it is better, right? So if I want to have my finances fixed, let's be more specific. What would fix that? An extra 1,000, an extra 100? Okay, by when and how? We want to answer that. The challenge is that we feel like we don't want to be specific because what if we don't make it? But you're not specific to make it. You're specific to give you power. Here's another example. The difference between a spoon and a knife, right? If I push a spoon against a cardboard box, how successful am I at pushing through? Not that successful. But if I use a knife and I push through, it pushes through pretty easy, right? It's because there's a concentrated point on that knife. That's what you want to think with your goals. The more concentrated point you can have, it'll at least allow you to push through. And if you got to readjust, you can readjust, right? If you don't make it, don't worry. Don't worry. But at least you can push through because you get momentum. So being more specific on it gives you more power, right? So be specific. I want to challenge you. However, you know what your goals, take it one more step and be more specific. Put one more detail in there and write that out today. Now, the next thing is measurable. You want to measure it. You want to have a way to kind of measure your goal, because if we can't measure it, there's no way to track if you're going in the right direction. You know, we don't want it to be like, I feel like it's getting better, because our emotions feel good one day and feel bad another day. But you want to track it. You want it to be measurable. Now, A is you want it to be achievable. You want it to be action focused. So you want to say, if this is your goal, what action are you taking toward it? You want to have action in your goal. I'm going to do blank by blank. I'm going to do blank by blank. Now, I take the R out, because the R in the old model talks about it being realistic. But realistic is boring. Realistic won't motivate you. Realistic is based on your past, and you want your goals to be based on your future. So I take that out. And then T is time. You want to have a time with it. Don't worry if you don't achieve it in that time. You can always adjust it. Here's a goal I tell people. Me and Jamie got married. Oh, now I'm in a hot seat. I forgot. 15 years ago, right? Something like that. 15 years ago. Okay. And we went ahead. One of my goals I would write out every year was to buy a wedding ring that I couldn't buy when we got married. I couldn't afford it at that time, but I seen one and that was my goal. I wanted to save enough money to get there. That goal stayed on my goal list for almost 10 years. Every year I said, do I take it off? Maybe I might be materialistic. And I wrestled with it, but I kept it on. And one day I walk into Sears, and Sears has a 90% sale off on their wedding inventory. I'm like, what? So long story short, we end up getting more than the one that we even wanted to have, and we save money, but the time is not in our hands. That's the toughest thing with goals. We got to release the time and trust that in God's time, it'll all work out. But it's our job to continue to persevere and stay focused on it. You know, he wants us to stay focused. He wants us to go and keep the steps of faith moving forward, but put the time in his hands. He's going to work things out in his time, you know? So, and it always works out better than we can ever think. Let's go to the next one here. It's about communicating your why. The first one we want to communicate our why to is ourself. So I want to ask yourself, how do you tell yourself about your why? Most people I ask tell me, I know my why. And then I say, can you show it to me? Now, you want to have a way that you tell yourself your why. Here's some practical things. Nowadays, if you have a smartphone, you can push the record and you can record yourself telling yourself your why. And you can actually send that to yourself in an email every time in your calendar. So when you wake up in the morning, you get an email. It's yourself, remind yourself from your why. You push play and you listen to it and you tell yourself your why. Here's another thing I see people do to be creative. They actually go ahead and they type it out. They put it in a note. They set it on a reminder and it reminds them every so often. And it just comes up, just like how you get a reminder for check your social media or check this email. You're getting a reminder saying, hey, remember why? Hey, remember why? Hey, remember why? Right? You're using the same thing that could distract you, but you're kind of reminding yourself. Another way is to just write it in a journal every morning. There's something that happens. I can't tell you yet. Maybe one day I'll figure out the research. But there's something that happens when you take a thought and you let it pass through your mouth or your fingers and you write it out. So that's communicating your why. You want to go and do that there. So how do you communicate your why? Right? You want to go ahead and see how that happens. But go ahead. I want to take a quick pause And let me know if you have any other ideas to communicate your why. Maybe put that in the chat, or if I shared one thing that stood out that you're going to start doing. So either you'll start journaling, either you'll start recording your voice and sending it to yourself, or maybe you'll type out a reminder and send that to yourself. What is it that you are going to do starting today? Share it in the chat with me if you can, or if you want to come off of mute, you can come off of mute too. But I want to see, I want to put some action in today's webinar and see what are you going to do starting today to start communicating your why to yourself. Now, don't worry if you haven't found your why. We'll work on that a little bit more, but try and identify how are you going to communicate your why to yourself.
I'll share.
Hey, Jamie, go ahead.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I think something that helps me is put it in on my vision board. I use pictures actually, and I put it right in front of me, in front of my desk, so I can see it every day when I'm working on it. I even have it on my phone. Where is my phone? Like the front screen. I put the vision board on there.
Awesome, Jamie. I love that. I love that. And even when you mentioned on your phone, I just seen a quick study, guys. Check this out. You reminded me of this study. Putting your why on your phone will actually increase your chances drastically, because there's studies that show that we look at our phone way more nowadays. So you're actually reminding yourself way more just by putting it right on your phone. Isn't that crazy? It's like we're always looking at our phone, but putting your why or your vision board right on your screensaver, well, actually, you're always looking at it. You're always looking at it. You're always looking at it. Cool. Awesome, Jamie. Thank you. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I think for me, I'm gonna start like you said about the recording yourself saying it. Can you hear me? Okay. Yeah, I think that's a good one. It's like you write stuff down, but reading it sometimes is not as powerful as saying it and hearing it. So I think that's a good one for me.
That's a great point. That's a great point. Thank you for sharing that. That's true. I'd agree. Sometimes I cannot, you cannot, they say, they say you cannot disagree with yourself. So when you record your own voice telling yourself those things, it's the best way to kind of get your focus going. So I love that. Okay, there we go. We got some action already from this webinar. So you guys are doing great. Let's go ahead and see what's next we got. Your why statement. So let's work on the why statement. First, we scheduled how we're going to communicate it to ourselves. Now, this is a really basic formula to start from. It can grow from here, but I want to give you this. So what motivates us is by two things: to either grow or to contribute. Basic human needs, every single human, regardless of their gender, wherever they grew up, if you look at any human you talk to, what will kind of motivate them to grow is by growth or contribution. How they're growing, how they're becoming more, or how they're adding value, or how they're to giving some way. So you start by doing that. To blank, and in the blank, you identify a way that you're contributing or growing. So to blank. So your statement is going to say TO, and then in that blank right after, it's going to have a form of contribution or growing, comma, so that, and then the next space is the impact that it'll make. So let me go ahead and do this. So an example is, if you want to do a contribution, say we're doing something about youth. So to serve Hawaii's youth so that they never face poverty and hurt. That's a real basic thing. That's a real start. What is your why? My why is to serve Hawaii's youth so that they never face poverty or hurt. To blank, so that blank. So you start with that. What is it for you? To blank, so that blank. So your why do you wake up in the morning? Why are you trying to reach a financial goal? Maybe my financial goal is something and I want to reach it to give to my family so that they never have to experience what I experience. Or to what is it, Maybe by having a financial goal, you want your children to believe that they're blessed beyond measure because they can experience that, right? That could be another way. Or it's to pass on some knowledge that you had. So to blank, so that blank. Any questions on that? Let me know really quickly.
And can you do a example again?
Sure, absolutely. So maybe a goal is, so I told a story before about this one story where this guy had his daughter that she really needed some surgery, and it's life-saving surgery. And he was trying some health goals for years of his life and he couldn't achieve them. But as soon as his daughter needed a transplant and he was the only one that could do it, but he needed to lose some weight, he was motivated. In a matter of 6 months, boom. It wasn't a special supplement. It wasn't a special program. His why became more important than anything else because no one was going to tell him that he couldn't achieve that. So that's in that situation. So maybe his contribution to give life to my daughter so that she can continue. So maybe his goal is to be healthy so that I can provide his kidney for my daughter's life. You see, if you asked him before, take this supplement, and I'm all for supplements and stuff, but I'm just trying to use an example. If he's like, hey, take this supplement. Oh, okay, cool. It does all this. Okay, awesome. I'm motivated, but I end up but his why in that moment changed because it wasn't about anything else other than saving his daughter's life. So it was to become healthy so that his daughter can live. Does that help?
Yes.
Cool. Okay. The goal with the why too is to have something in the beginning. Don't search for a perfect why because it's going to take some digging and it's going to take some time. But just finding that why will make the biggest difference ever. Now I'm going to jump to maintaining the why. And the reason is because it's not just about finding it. A lot of people is like, hey, I found my why. Awesome. Tomorrow we're going to find it again. Next week we're going to find it again. We got to maintain the why. So there's different ways to maintain our why. And that has to do with our daily remembrance. How are we daily remembering what we found? And when it no longer serves us, we go back to the process again of figuring out why am I doing any of this? Why do I show up at work even though it's not something? Why do I continue these habits? Why do I work out when I don't want to? Why do I save when it's really hard? Why should I call a friend? In the moment, it's not going to feel like that. What happens is this. We're faced with two things. So this isn't in the training, but this is coming to mind and this really helped me. So I'm going to just, I'm going to go from this point. We're faced with the decisions every day, right? And the decisions that we're faced with is either important or it's urgent. That's it. It's either important or it's urgent. Guess which one wins?
Urgent.
If we don't live with intention and we don't know our why, urgent will always win in your life. Now, this is something, now, if you look at big marketing firms, when I first learned this, I thought, oh my goodness. So if you're just hearing this, you might be kind of shocked. But you look at big marketing firms, you look at Pepsi, you look at McDonald's, you look at anything big, even big, Procter & Gamble, you look at all these, and you guess what they invest a lot of money in? Their marketing is built on causing us to make decisions off of urgency. They market to us to build up a sense of urgency, and then we react. So you're surrounded by that. We're surrounded by that every day to make decisions off of things that are urgent but not important. That's why we'll make a decision off of something that's urgent. And then when we hit a wall off of something that's important, we're like, So urgency will always push its way forward. Why you want to maintain your why is because you want to keep what's important in the front. Right? When people want us to get to places, when they want us to do stuff, even guilt will have a sense of, oh, that's more urgent. But if we're focused on what's important, we can say, thank you so much. I can't do that right now. Cut me into the next one. Because I had a plan today. When I woke up today, I had a plan to do what was important. Why you want to do what's important? This is exactly why. And you give them the why right after that. So you want to maintain your why in that process. That's why I kind of share with that. Here we're almost at the end. Now you want to stay close to your why. You want to do just like how John mentioned, listening to himself with his own voice. That's a good example of staying close to your why. Jamie mentioned with the vision board. That's a really good thing to stay close to your why. So you want to keep your why close. That's pretty much what this one talks about. Now, the why, how, what of marketing. I touched a little bit of that, and you might be thinking, what is this marketing? Well, I touched a little bit. You see, the big corporations will market to us a sense of urgency. So it's in our court. It's in your court. It's in my court. How well do you market your sense of what's important? They're going to show you a commercial right at lunch about something that's urgent but not important. And we give into it. But how well do you market to yourself what's important so you don't fall what's urgent? So we got to think like how they think. This is about going ahead and saying, okay, what is the why that I'm going to make important over what's urgent? Now, the last part here, finding meaning in the struggle. Now, when you talk about meaning in a struggle, a lot of it is because the struggle is where we build strength, but it's all about how we attach the meaning to it. You know, what meaning do you attach to your tough days? What meaning do you attach? Does it mean that you're weak? That's not true. Does it mean that you failed? No, not necessarily. You know, but if you do attach that, then it's going to be really tough. So discovering your why will actually help you change the meaning in the struggle. Because when you're going through a tough time, you understand, you know what? My why is bigger. Hey, yeah, today was really hard, but man, it's going to be so good when we get Like the meaning in the struggle changes when you discover your why. Now, here's another thing too. If you haven't yet, try and make your why a sense or a reason to give back. Because if you picture a cup, I want to hold up a cup here. If you picture a cup like this, when that cup starts to overflow, that's the picture of you or me giving back. So I actually hear sometimes when people say, "Oh, I just want enough for me. I don't want everything in life. I just want enough for me." But I think in a sense, that could kind of, like, what about other people? What about giving back? What about pouring into those that don't have what we have? So we don't want to just think of, I just want enough for my life. Like, what if you had enough that you could bless other people's lives? That'd be pretty amazing. So we got to think in a sense of overflow. We got to think in a sense of giving back. We got to think in a sense of contribution. And it starts by having a why that's bigger than ourselves. So when you think of, make your why bigger and having a sense of giving back. So yes, we're going to achieve goals because of what we'll get in our life, and nothing's wrong with that. But when you think of a sense that when you're pouring out and you're overflowing to others, you can't just ask for whatever money it costs for you to stay afloat. You have to ask for more, because you need enough for you to stay afloat. And then when you have more, you have a sense to give back. You're in a sense of overflow. Nothing's wrong with that, because now you're being a vessel that's being worked through. Right? When you look at it in a form of stewardship, not ownership, we can be that vessel that gives back. Now, how to give back? Many different ways to give back. You can partner with local charities. You can go ahead and we strongly believe to see whatever you can do to serve in the church in any way, shape, or form, because there's many ways to serve in there. But also partner with nonprofit, I'd say, because there's a good bridge in there. We want to go ahead and bridge to nonprofits. You want to bridge to schools. You want to bridge to places of need. Think about yourself being a sense of a bridge that can help people come over. People that's in a place of struggle, but can come over. You can get team members involved. You can volunteer in team building opportunities. Another place is you can educate. There's things that you know today that you could educate others in, and it'll be a way to kind of bless them. Now, here's the power of feedback. We're going to wrap up in a little bit. I got 5 minutes to the top of the hour. Thank you guys for staying with us. Hope you're getting some value in this. We're taking a different approach today, not high energy, because the why, I want us to really think through it. I want us to really think through the why. Now, the power of feedback, you want to have a sense to have feedback. You want to have where people can speak into your life to give you honest feedback. People that's not afraid to hurt your feelings, because sometimes our feelings have to be hurt a little bit, especially if we're stuck in a cycle of mistakes, right? We have to be open for that. Now, let me see here. Here, I'll tell you this story here. I had a good friend that taught me the power of this. He used to go to a bunch of webinars, and he would go to a bunch of live conferences. And if the conference was for 3 days, he would always book an extra day or two after the conference. And one time I asked him, because we would all be leaving and we're going home, and I said, "Hey, how come you stay a little bit? Do you go see the city and go take a little mini vacation?" And he said, no. He actually goes ahead and he spends the next day or two to reflect on everything that he just learned. And then he asked one of the speakers or one of the trainers that he's seen there to have a Q&A with him. And if it costs money, he'll invest in that. But he actually asked because he wants some feedback. He wants to know what I learned. Did I hear it correctly? And then he can go ahead and set action steps. So there's a power of feedback. And once he kind of shared that with me, every time I go to a conference or anything else, I started to do the same thing. Take a time right after the sense of learning to reflect, right? When we go ahead and we just go meeting to 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 meeting, we feel like this sense of endorphins, like, oh, we got good and yeah, but we didn't. We didn't learn anything new. We have to take that small moment to reflect, to get some feedback, and then we can go ahead and set forth again. That's even in our why. And then you want to celebrate milestones. So it's really important. I'm going to share this really quickly. When you are growing to a goal, we don't know how many milestones it's going to take. We don't know, but we can celebrate them along the way. We don't know that the goal that's on your heart, maybe the desire that was placed on you, or the calling that you have on your life, we don't know how many milestones that's going to take. But as we come to them, we can celebrate them. You know what I mean? So we want to make sure that we celebrate milestones. Has it been 1 year that you've been free from this bad habit? We want to celebrate that. Has it been 1 year that you've been good with this new habit? We want to celebrate that, right? So celebrating milestones is awesome because it's kind of ways that you're putting footing on the foundation. Awesome, awesome, awesome. And that's it. You're off. So I want to say, you might feel like, I don't even have my why yet, Jordan. What do you mean we're off? Well, we have the framework. And I want to encourage you to not be afraid to fill in the blanks. Most people will stop because they want to get it perfect. But I want to encourage you that the blanks don't have to be perfect. Just fill in the blanks. Put something in the blank to get started. Because the goal isn't to get it perfect today. The goal is to start today. Write the why down and then go ahead and send me an email at jbp.mossman@gmail.com. And that'll be a way that you took 2 actions from today's webinar. 1, you started. 2, you communicated your why. And then we'll see how we remind ourselves and we keep it close. I'll close with this, and then we'll open up for some Q&A real quickly. I really believe that without a strong why, it's not even necessary to do anything else with goal setting. Like, I really believe if this is the missing part in everything else. It's a waste of time to make a vision board, to write out your goals every year, and to write out the steps, and to get motivated and pumped up if we're not going to be serious about why we're doing any of this. Because you're going to have people that's the closest to you that's going to say, that's not going to work. Why are you even doing that? Why are you trying to be different? Why are you trying to be better? Who do you think you are? I know the real you. You can change anyway. Not going to work. You're going to have those people. And it's going to come from the most hurtful places. You're going to have seasons that nothing going to work. That our finances going to fall apart. That doors going to close. That we're going to make mistakes and we're going to bad habits. And what's going to carry us through is when you look at that why, you say, this is why I'm not going to give up. This is why I'm not going to give up. It might be faces you got to look at. You might have to look at some picture and say, these are the people why I'm not going to give up. Having the why is the most important part of goal setting.